everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining me in the video today. This is the Thomann Bass Saxophone. It's currently priced at just under 2,800 United States dollars, making it the cheapest bass saxophone that you can get anywhere in the world. The question is, will a bass sax this cheap be any good? Let's find out. In this review, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts, not just as a player, but also as a repair tech. So without further ado, let's get started. To start off, I want to talk about the process of ordering this instrument. So I ordered this instrument from Thomann's website, and at the time of purchasing, the listed price was $2,777. Now the price does change if you are located outside of the European Union because the prices are in euros. So if you're converting it to your local currency, it will tend to change from week to week as the value of various currencies change. So for me, it happened to be really well in my favor because the euro was dropping relative to the dollar, making this quite an affordable instrument. Now, even though the listed price on the website was only under $2,800, that's not the final price that you're going to pay. You have to remember that you're also paying for shipping, import taxes if you're buying it from outside of Germany, and sales tax if that's applicable to your state. So for me, I had to pay all three of those things. So shipping was approximately $150. Import tax was also about $150. It's usually 4.9% for most instruments. And then I had to pay sales tax on top of that, bringing the total to approximately $3,300. Now, obviously that's quite a bit more than $2,800, but still, for $3,300, that's very cheap for a bass saxophone. And unfortunately, there's really no way to avoid some things like shipping and taxes. So I would still consider this to be an excellent deal, especially considering that many good bass saxophones cost well over $10,000. So now let's look at how the instrument plays. So to start off, I just want to show you what the instrument sounds like with the stock mouthpiece. I'm going to be using a Leger 2.5 bass sax reed, but the mouthpiece and ligature are going to be stock along with everything else on the instrument, of course. And that kind of illustrates one of the big problems with bass saxophones. A lot of the cheaper instruments that you can order do not actually come with a bass sax mouthpiece, and you can really hear how the instrument has problems on some notes. So for example, the D in the upper register. You can hear it really has a lot of trouble coming out. Now for comparison, let's hear it with an actual bass sax mouthpiece. Now I'm going to be using an actual bass sax mouthpiece. So this is one of my mouthpieces with a 2.8mm tip opening and a long facing. So you can see with an actual bass sax mouthpiece, the instrument responds a lot better. And for that reason, I would strongly recommend that if you're going to buy one of these instruments, spend the extra money and get a good mouthpiece. I'll leave a link for my mouthpiece in the description. So to give you an idea of how the instrument sounds, I'm now going to be playing a chromatic scale. So to me, the instrument sounds quite even throughout the range. I would say the intonation is not perfect, especially really high up where it tends to get really sharp. I think a lot of that though is due to the fact that I'm using a bass sax mouthpiece versus the original mouthpiece, which had a much smaller chamber. So just something to keep in mind if you're testing out different mouthpieces. Overall, there are a few notes that are sharp and flat, but for the most part, everything's around where it should be, and you could probably lip up and down to get everything in tune. So nothing really major and pretty much on par for a bass saxophone. I will say with the bass sax mouthpiece, it does have a really nice, rich, fat tone. With the stock mouthpiece, it did kind of sound a lot more like a bari sax than a really bass sax. But with the real bass sax mouthpiece, it definitely sounds a lot more like a vintage bass sax, the sound you would kind of expect from that instrument. So overall, yeah, I'm very happy with the sound and intonation of this instrument for the price. So now let's look at the mechanics of the instrument. So I'm sure the question on everybody's mind is, how how well will a sub $3,000 bass sax hold up over time? Well, I've only had the instrument for a day, unfortunately, so I really can't say, but we can still look at the mechanics of this instrument and see how well it is built and how we expect it to last over time. Looking at the rods, we can notice that a lot of them are actually made of nickel silver. You can tell because they have a little bit brighter color. Now this is really good to see. Compared to brass, nickel silver is stronger, stiffer, and is immune from red rot. This means that these rods will last a lot longer than a comparable rod made of brass. Now it's good to see that this was used on the instrument. It shows that a lot of care was taken in designing this instrument to last a long time and play as well as possible. Looking at the overall build quality, there are a few minor things. I noticed a few spots where there wasn't quite enough solder underneath some of the guards, or some of the key corks weren't quite as neat as they could be. Overall, nothing major. I will say I've seen similar issues on much more expensive instruments, and I didn't see anything that would cause any major problems or really anything that really needed to be addressed. Overall, I'd say the build quality is really good. I will say that despite being shipped from Germany, this instrument played perfectly out of the box without any adjustments, which is really good to see. I am really impressed, and I was certain that I would have to do some adjustments when I got it, but so far I really haven't had to do anything. Very impressive.
So now I'd like to talk about the case for this instrument. Of course, for such a large saxophone, the case is quite big. However, it does seem to hold the instrument securely, and it does have wheels on the end, so it is fairly easy to roll around. It did just barely fit in my compact sedan, so you can still transport it to gigs. However, if you have anything smaller, you might want to look at a smaller case, which unfortunately can be quite expensive.
Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Overall, I think this is an excellent value for the price. You really won't find anything in the same price range as this instrument, and vintage bass saxes have been getting more and more expensive over the years, so this is a great option for somebody who is looking for a bass sax on a budget. I don't see any major mechanical issues with this instrument, and I think overall it should be a very good player for years to come. So I think this is a great buy, and if you've been looking for a bass sax, I would definitely consider this instrument. So thanks everyone, I hope you all have a wonderful day.